Okay, I'm gonna start a kind of a new little YouTube channel here about the 300 blackout. It's going to be rush shooting on YouTube. It's going to be mostly dedicated to 300 blackout, 223, 308, stuff like that. Maybe some pistol reloading and shooting. I'm going to start this video. I contacted Rainier about a month and a half ago, and I asked to send them some samples for some testing, and told them what I was going to start doing, making videos and uploading stuff on YouTube, and they were gracious enough to send me 500 bullets, 250 each box of their 180 grain Wedge subsonic bullets. I originally thought that they were going to send me just some samples. That's what I wanted to ask for. And I got to send a thanks to his name's Shane at Rainier Ballistics. He emailed me back almost right away and sent me these boxes, and I didn't ask for them. All I wanted was, some samples. So I want to send a thanks to him. Well, when I first got these bullets, I was using the manuals back there, and I did some research on the internet, and I was having trouble finding any kind of data for subsonic loads. You can find everything for supersonic, but you can't find anything on the internet for subsonic, really, or in the manuals. So I started off on the low end of the manuals shooting these bullets, and the low end is 1,500 feet a second. Here's one of the Wedge bullets. That's the flat point, and then here's the hollow point. Nice looking bullets. But I loaded some up, and I was looked like the bullets were almost coming apart when they came out of the gun. And that was on the low end of the spectrum. And what I noticed was on the end of my flash hider had a lot of lead on it and copper pieces where the bullets almost seemed like they were coming apart. Now I've tested probably 200 to 250 of these bullets already, and I had a heck of a time trying to get them to shoot and trying to get them to cycle, and I was loading them in the beginning at about 2.0 to 2.1, and sometimes I would get consistent feeding, and then other times just no feeding whatsoever. Every other shot would jam, and I couldn't figure out why. So I was getting kind of mad, and I didn't want to put a video up bashing their product until I did some more testing. So I loaded some up at a longer length, which was at 2.15, and then I loaded some at 2.2. These are the 2.2s. Now, the dies that I'm using are the RCBS small base taper crimp dies, and they put a little crimp on here. And I've just been using a slight crimp, so I didn't really gouge into the bullet. But after I lengthened these out, I started having real consistent feeding, but I was still getting a jam every maybe 10 shots. And I knew it wasn't the bullets because they were feeding really good. So what I did was I went and bought some new magazines. Now the magazines I was using was P-mags and your standard GI steel mags, and I even had a couple Troys. But the P-mags were Gen 2. The Troy was the one that I was using to get consistent feeding. So what I did was I went and bought a 20 round P-mag. And I noticed that the spring tension in the P-mag, in the 20 rounder, was a lot more than the 30 rounders. So after I switched to the Gen 3 P-mag with the 20 rounders, every one of these feed consistently perfect every time. Now, I tried every different kind of powder you can even think of to get good consistent cycling and loads out of it. I tried 296, 2400, IMR 4227, 1680, all the popular powders with the 300 blackout. And what I ended up settling on was 1680, which was kind of hard to find at first, but I found it at the Cabela's in West Virginia. And the low end is shown in the manual at about 15 grains. Well, I watched a video on YouTube where the guy was shooting 10.5 grains and getting 1,450 feet a second. So with 15 grains, I'm sure I was probably going way over the 1,500 feet a second that it was showing in the manual. So what I did was, I worked up a couple of different loads of different powders, and I ended up settling on 12.5 grains of 1680. After I switched to that 12.5 grains of 1680, I probably was getting 1.5 inch groups at 50 yards, maybe 2.5 to 3 inch groups at 100 yards, which ain't bad considering what you're shooting. I mean, these are basically just a target bullet for shooting subsonic. So I was pretty happy with what I ended up getting. The bullets load real easy. I don't like to taper or flare the case mouth on my brass, because just for the simple fact that it just wears it out too fast. So even with not flaring the cases, these bullets go in very easily into the brass. With that small base on here, it definitely makes it a little bit tighter tolerance, but it definitely, the bullet goes in pretty smoothly. I wouldn't say there's resistance, but it isn't no more than any other bullet. And I'm not getting any shades of copper or anything coming all around, the neck of the case, so I'm pretty happy with them. But once again, I'd like to say thanks to Rainier. I mean, they went above and beyond what they had to do to send me anything. They didn't know me from nobody, and I told them, I'd put a video up to review and test their product, and that's what I want to do. And I just wanted to be fair. I went through every bullet when I got these, every one, and looked at them, all 500, and I found one bad bullet out of all of them, or the tip of this was out of the hollow points, where the tip was a little bit messed up. And I weighed it, and it came out to 160 grains. So with missing that tip, it would knock 20 grains off there. It's still shootable, I mean, if you're just using it for target practice. But I just thought I'd point that out. But if that's the only bad bullet in the whole thing, then you don't have nothing to worry about. But I will say, do not shoot these. Do not shoot these hotter than the recommended 1,500 feet a second. Even with the manuals saying that you're shooting 1,500 feet a second, you're shooting faster than 1,500 feet a second. When I dropped it down to below the minimum charge in the book, things started working excellent. The bullets started flying true. Well, that's another thing. Whenever I was shooting at the low end of the manual, my accuracy was all over the place. Half the time I wasn't even hitting the paper. And as soon as I slowed the bullet down just a little bit and slowed the charge down a little bit, the accuracy was great for what it is. And the bullet flew true. I didn't have no keyholing the bullets. I wasn't getting lead in my flash hiders at the end. Another thing was when I was pushing a little bit harder, copper was coming back through the gas system and into my bolt carrier. So that's just something to be aware of. But I did load up some hot ones in the upper end of the manual to try to see what they would do, and they just didn't fly. I'd hit maybe 1 out of every 5 on the paper. It was just too much for the bullet. But I just wanted to do some testing. So keep them subsonic, or I'd say around 1,200 to 1,400 feet a second, and they're a great bullet. They cycle fine, they shoot great, and I would highly recommend them to anybody that's looking for a cheaper option to shoot. Here's some Hornadies that I just picked up at Cabela's. They were on sale for $21 a box. I think these are 25 to 30 for 250. For the price, you can't beat it, especially if you shoot a lot like I do. So just keep them in mind whenever you're thinking about starting to shoot a lot of target shooting and stuff like that. And in the upcoming future, I'm going to be making some videos on shooting these and how they, I'm going to make a video within the next couple days on you know, show you my targets and show you how they shoot and everything. So I'll be posting that up here soon, but just keep an eye out for my videos, and I'll try to keep putting them out here as much as I can. So if you see this video on there, like and subscribe and leave a comment. Maybe you got something else that you can add to something I forgot on here, but hopefully I'll see you guys some more. Like I said, within the next couple days I'm going to put a video out of shooting these loads that I made up with some different powder charges, and at that length at 2.1 to 2.2, and that at that length right there made a big difference in the magazines being full length in the 223 magazine. So you guys have a good evening, and I'll be seeing you guys again here soon. Thanks.